LaVine becoming the first player in Bulls franchise history to sign a contract worth more than $100 million. They were the only franchise out there that had not handed out a $100 million contract yet. Zach LaVine now inking 215.2. Let's welcome in Avery Johnson here. Avery, there were a handful of teams out there that, hopeful that perhaps Zach LaVine could in fact come play for them. Here he is staying in Chicago. Your initial reaction?
Oh, I love this for the Chicago Bulls. When you have invested this much time and energy into a young player and you've helped him develop, and then you add DeMar DeRozan to the mix, and when those two are on the court, they actually play extremely well together. It's hard to allow guys like this to walk. And a lot of times in situations like this, it's going to require a maximum contract. So the Bulls did the right thing. They played basically the second half of the season without Lonzo Ball. So when you have Lonzo Ball, LaVine, DeRozan on the court, you have a very formidable 1-2-3 punch in the mix. At one time, they were leading the Eastern Conference in terms of the best record very early in the season. So again, a lot of this pointing towards Zach LaVine's production. So this is no surprise. I know a lot of other teams wanted to get involved. Some of them, quite frankly, just didn't have the cap space to get involved. Maybe next year would have been a better year for them to try to poach Zach LaVine away from the Bulls. But this is a smart move, smart business move for Zach LaVine to return to the Bulls.
Zach LaVine drafted back in 2014. He is now 27 years old. Talk to us about where you think he is in his career right now.
Well, I think he's still developing. And, this past summer, having that experience with the national team, being coached by Coach Greg Popovich and playing with those great players, I think that really helped elevate him in terms of his focus and share with him the type of preparation you need to be prepared to be a championship caliber player. So they took a good step forward this year, making the playoffs, even though they got swept. But now that's a good building block for him and the Bulls to come back to try to take that next step. And especially when they're healthy, they could be a very formidable team. So I really like this. I'm pleased overall. As a former coach, it's hard. Your plays work a lot better, Amanda, when you got good players. And Zach LaVine is not a superstar, but he's a very good player that I know the Bulls hope one day will reach that type of stardom to really equate to him deserving this type of contract.
Zach LaVine helping the Bulls reach the postseason for the first time in 5 years this past season. Avery, give me your outlook now when you have that stability. You know he's going to stay there for the Bulls maybe over the next 2 seasons or so.
Yeah, I like this team. When you look at their competition in the Eastern Conference, the Miami Heat, the Boston Celtics, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Bulls are right there in the mix with those teams. I'm not saying they're a championship team, but when they're healthy, and I got to stress health, they're right there in the mix. Sure, they can continue to add to this roster. I thought Vucevic, is a reliable big man. Obviously they have a very experienced coach and coaching staff. So the pieces are there. They just got to continue to add to it, maybe add a couple of different veterans to their team. You always need shooting players that can space the floor. But again, if they wouldn't have been able to re-sign Zach LaVine, then the Bulls would have dropped maybe to out of the playoffs or more to a play-in type of a team. But they're still top 4 or 5 team in the Eastern Conference with the re-signing of Zach LaVine. And as he continues to improve and they continue to take care of the basketball, play, better defense, especially in those last 5 minutes of the game, and get into the playoffs again and advance past the first round, then you'll continue to see progress from the Bulls in this organization.
Avery, some of the teams that were hoping to land him, who do you think were maybe the top 1, the top 2 teams that were hoping to get Zach LaVine? Where do they turn now?
Well, sure, the Lakers wanted to get in play, but it's hard because you can't find a landing spot for Russell Westbrook in that type of contract. And then you had some teams, whether it's the Indiana Pacers, maybe trying to get in play, teams like that with cap space. But I believe, and I talked to one of Zach LaVine's friends, who I'm not going to name, who's very close with his wife. She said if it wasn't the Lakers, he was going to return back to the Chicago Bulls. So there's no surprise here, but I know the Lakers wanted to get in play here, but they just couldn't pull it off because they didn't have the cap space and not a spot, even a third team where they could pretty much trade Russell Westbrook.
Avery Johnson, we appreciate it. It's been a busy couple of weeks for you. Maybe we're nearing the end. I can't say for sure because there's some big deals out there that can still get done. But thank you so much for hopping on with us with this news here. Zach LaVine staying with the Bulls, inking that contract there. Taking a look, it has been a busy 24 hours or so. Max contract signed this offseason. And again, most of these happening just within the past 24 hours or so. Nikola Jokic there with the Nuggets, Karl Anthony Towns, Devin Booker also getting 4 years, $224 million to stay with the Suns. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.